I don't do usually, Ken, is I don't usually wait very long before the stream starts. So I decided that I would say, hey, now I can start. It's Friday, Ken. Friday. It's a
Hello, Clint.
beautiful. Hello, Ken. How have you been?
Pretty well, pretty well. How about
I'm
yourself?
so glad to hear that. Yeah, as I like to say, I am operating within normal tolerances. It's a beautiful day here in Western New York. We haven't had much rain for quite some time, so the sky is blue. Well, is it blue?
We've had
Yeah, we got some
thunderstorms
blue.
3 days in a row here in North Carolina.
Is that so? Wow.
Yep. Not
Wow.
unusual for summer.
We get thunderstorms, but we haven't had any lately, and we have had no rain whatsoever for some amount of time. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to check out if they're going to be change logs. I forgot to turn on my slide that shows people what we're doing today. Oh, Ken, we were too busy getting all excited for today's ZD TV that
Well, we've got some good stuff to show.
I forgot to set myself up. I got this whole new profile because Windows is Windows, and now I got to swap the presenter. There we go. All right. So
What you
now,
got?
if I, what's that?
What you got?
Well, I got just the regular thing that we always see here. What are we going to do? We're going to look at release notes, if there are any. When I checked earlier this week, there weren't any. Then we have our special guest star, Eugene Kobyakov, back again. He's going to show us
All right.
Zitify. What Zitify is, we'll talk about it, why it's cool, why it's amazing, why it's the best thing since sliced bread. So let's go right ahead and pop. Anything else? Anything you want to add to that, Ken?
Nope, just along for the ride.
Just along for the ride, for the lulls. Let's see. This is the thing. I want to come over to the change log. Let's see if we've got. Well, today's change log reading will be quite easy because there is no change log to be read. So fantastic. So
Still on 526.
everybody who is so bummed out right now that we're not going to read change logs, I'm very, very sorry. Well, hey, ZDTV, Andrew's favorite show is on. Everybody, Andrew Martinez. He's been a special guest star before. Awesome to see Andrew shouting out.
And
So I guess we're not going to read any release notes. That means we can just get right into the meat and the potatoes here. We can bring in Eugene. Welcome, Eugene.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me back on this show.
Well,
yeah,
we
well,
have to. We're contractually obligated.
Contractually obligated. Yes.
That's not true.
I
That's
think the
not true.
contract says like 4 times in a calendar year. So
All
I'm
right.
like 50% in the last months. So
Well, hey, that's fantastic. We'll have you back as many times as you want. You're one of our top three favorite guest stars. Have we had three? I think.
top 4 out of
So,
3.
so you're definitely top 10. I can tell you that for sure. Definitely top 10. So today we had this new thing Eugene laid out a couple weeks ago called Zitify. If anybody's not familiar, Zitify is a term that we use here when we add Ziti to something. Usually, it is specifically used to indicate that the application which is running has Ziti embedded within it. Not so much just using Ziti with like a tunneling app, but actually an application embedded approach is what I would consider to be a Zitify. What we have today, Eugene, you would consider it application embedded. Is that true?
It is application embedded.
Okay, but there's
Yeah.
some caveats.
There's some caveats. So a little bit of background. I mean, yes, you can develop applications with Zitify. Unfortunately, not everybody can do it.
Well,
The
before we go too far into this, because I think I know where you're going. What is Zetify? What is it supposed to do? Can you just give me like the 10,000 foot view? What Zetify
So
is?
what is Zitify like? How to Zitify application, or
No, no,
what
no.
do you?
The thing that we are showing today is specifically something that you wrote, which works in Linux, and just talk about what that thing is, how it works, like what it is it, and how will it work?
It's a script that traps the execution of your program without the modification,
Ah,
and
so so I don't have to compile it in, is what you're saying?
correct.
Cool, cool.
Yes. So and what it does, it wraps it in a way that any communication that is supposed to go over Ziti goes over Ziti without changing your binary. The impetus for this script or program, if you will, is that developing an application is hard. Sometimes you just want to use applications that are off the shelf, that are supported, that have their own release cycle. You not necessarily want to mess around with Zitifying it via the source code, right? Because social maintenance is hard enough, even if you only get third-party binaries. Another thing is, even if you do have your own application, sometimes you would use third-party libraries for network communication. For example, if you develop a smart widget, let's say a smart toaster, right? And you want to write an application that runs on that smart toaster, you don't suddenly decide, I'm going to write an application, how do I open a socket, right? You're not going to do that. You're going to pick up a library that gives you not only networking communication, but also the protocol support, whether that be MQTT, gRPC, what have you, REST API, right? You're not going to build your application from scratch necessarily. Some people do, but I think there is most developers would use available off-the-shelf libraries that provide network communication and the protocol support for you.
Well, I mean, I know that I would certainly go and find a library because particularly when you're dealing with network communication, I mean, that's some not scary stuff, but like so many things go wrong. And so many little weird things that you have to understand and know. I know for a long time, we actually had, as part of our ZD tunnel, the Golang ZD tunnel, we had our own IP stack for a little bit, and everybody had the same reaction, which is, woof, IP. I mean, it's not the most complicated spec in the world, but getting all the little nooks and the crannies right.
It's probably one of the most complicated specs in the world.
Is it? Is it really?
It's fairly complicated.
I bet there are more complicated ones.
I'm sure there are, but it's probably in the top 5%.
Well, actually, now I want to know. Now, all right. So Google challenge to everybody out there. I want to know what the most complicated spec actually is, because like when I look at an IP packet, it's not particularly crazy, but the windowing that's involved and all that sort of stuff that comes around with it.
Just remember that IP packet, yes, but there's like several layers, right? The TCP is underneath or on top, if you will, of the IP packet.
Sure.
So IP packet wraps TCP packet and so forth.
Sure.
And if you write your own IP stack, you also want to deal with UDP and all of the junkiness. I think we got off topic here.
But, I love it. I love getting off topic. All right. So I would use a library as well, as opposed to writing all of that myself, for sure. Yes. And that's actually one of the big reasons why we provide OpenZiti, right? Like the SDKs that we provide will give you a zero trust overlay without you having to go reinvent a zero trust overlay. Like that's a giant reason that you want to adopt OpenZiti into your applications.
Correct. And in some cases, different third-party library that you use would allow you to provide hooks into networking layer, but a lot of times they don't. And that's why I developed this new component that could be used in some cases to Zitify your application.
That's cool. So the Zitify script is something that I think you said worked only in Linux. Is that what I heard, or do I just know this?
Right now it works on Linux. I think we can do similar things for Mac OS and Windows, believe it or not.
And Windows
it requires some more work.
Well, that's pretty exciting. So it works in Linux for now. It's a script. And what does the script do? How does it actually do its thing?
Well, why don't you try to run it?
You want me to just run it?
I want you to.
Oh my goodness!
Demonstrate it.
We're going to do it live. I clicked the wrong button. Now my Mattermost is coming up, which is a mistake. So let me make a brand new window. I love that you've challenged me to do it live. Let's go ahead and bring this on here. What do we want to do? Let's do it this way. What do you think? Let's get that graphic out of there. I don't need that hat.
Yeah. So I think we have to tell everybody that you have an identity in a Zed's network.
Yes.
right?
So what I have in front of you now is a clean, brand new terminal with whatever just comes on my path. Ahead of time, I am typing in the wrong. Hang on one second. I have done something goofy. All right. Ahead of time, Eugene has been so kind as to give me a identity. So inside of here, I've already, let's see if I can, I don't have the history. Let me find my history 1 second. wget. No. Did I download it? I must have downloaded it. Eugene, where's the, you have the link? Where's the link?
The
You have
link.
the, yeah, I don't have my Mattermost open. I'm going to open it back up now. You sent me a link to the actual, the zip file itself, right?
Yeah.
I got it. Here it is.
Yeah.
Update your Zitify, he said. Okay, so I'm going to make a new directory. Make their ZTV. Then I'm going to wget this. No, I'm not logged in. Won't let me log in there. Fine. I'm going to click on it and get it that way because that's the way it wants me to do it. ZTV.
Yeah, just it's because it's not really published
Yeah,
yet.
that's fine. So here is that link that I clicked on my browser in another window and got it here. So now I'm going to unzip Zitify. And when I do that, I get another zip file, which I chuckled at. I'm now going to unzip that one, Zitify 0.28. And now I'll have, let me rm star.zip because I don't need those anymore. And so now I have Zitify and I have libzitify.so, right? Actually, let me set my PS1, not set, export. PS1 equals, who cares? There. Okay. So now I've got Zitify and libzitify.so. So now if I cat Zitify, you said it's just a script. And it looks like,
it's very, very slim script.
yep, it looks like it
3 lines.
just has a bunch of copyright and then 3 magical lines here. So what are these lines doing? We have the first one, which gets the directory of the script that's executing. We have a other one that sets an environment variables to the shared object, which was in the zip file that is in that same directory. And then we are setting LD preload and then invoking all of the arguments that are passed into the script.
That's correct.
Seems pretty easy.
Yeah.
All right, let's. I need to put a colon or something in here because I'm prompt. There we go. All right, so now what can I do with Zitify? You wanted me to try it?
So
I think?
the first thing you want to do is set your Ziti identities environment variable.
Right. Actually, let me copy the lib. I have a Clint JSON to here. All right. So do you want me to export it or do I have to just set it?
Export it.
Export. All right. Export Ziti identities equals pwd/Clint client.json. Right?
Okay.
All right. Echo Ziti identities. Cool.
So, and now you should be able to curl. So this identity came from Zed's, I would say, ECD Edge Developer Sandbox.
But that's not important, right?
That's not important.
Okay.
It can come from whatever things you have in the UCD network, right? But one thing about Zeds is that it gives you standard services that you can hit. Like if you can go and curl, for example, http.zd, http-bin.zd, and get to the HTTP bin side that's behind the ZD network.
So I can now do a curl to http bin.zd?
Well, you can try it like this way, but obviously it doesn't work because it cannot be resolved. But if
Obviously.
you do Zitify in front of it, then it will magically work.
So this is the magic. So now I'm running that script. I didn't have to make it executable, which is nice. I see, since I run Windows Subsystem for Linux, and this is my Windows path, it marks everything as executable and owned by everybody, but whatever. So now I'll run Zitify curl http bin.zd. Uh-oh.
You want either .zitify or just put that directory in your path.
All right. So now let's do export path equals pwd and then colon $path. All right. Client JSON not found. So I've got a problem. Client. Okay. So I don't know how many times I've said this on ZDTV before, but for me, it is shockingly difficult for me to spell the word client and Clint. You would think that it wouldn't be so hard, but it is.
You just legally change the name to client.
I have gotten many of emails that have addressed me as client that I did not know if they actually meant to address me as client or not. I'm going to clear first too. Hey, oh, see a whole bunch of HTML. That's pretty cool. I see a whole bunch of logs too. Can I quiet those logs? Does ZD log work if I quiet those logs?
Work? Yeah, if you set ZD log to 0 or 1.
Oh, I can set it to 0?
Set to 0.
Set it to 0. Let's run that curl. Bang. And I got a bunch of HTML. Cool. All right. So already in the first 15 minutes, we have used Zitify to access an HTTP server on a .zd domain name, which of course we know is not a valid top level domain. That's that's really neat.
That is neat. So there's nothing special about curl here. It's just vanilla off-the-shelf curl, and I did it for HTTP as well.
Yep.
So can you set HTTP? I don't know if I have that installed. Is it just HTTP?
HTTP is the command.
Yeah. Bummer. I don't have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it works.
Well, that's cool.
Or you can I can try something else. You can even.
Well, let's talk about now this uses LD preload, right? Yeah. I think we saw that. Let me cat that screen.
Does LD preload work for UDP as well, or just TCP?
It should work for UDP as well. I mean,
could we Zitify a dig command then?
We could if you had a service that would respond to dig.
I don't, but I figured you had already made one by the time I said those words.
Listen, so this is fresh from the presses. The paint is still wet.
Well, so I mean, it works already. So I think before though, you had started going into about how there were certain limitations on this, like at the beginning.
Limitations. We can talk about them either right now or later because we have another demo. I think.
Oh, we have another demo. What's the other demo?
So the other demo is I did create just to show that we not only support HTTP stuff, but we also support any other executable with different protocols. I do have a Zitified MQTT server that you can hit from your Linux machine with Mosquito sub and Mosquito pub binaries.
Well, that's pretty neat. So I have already installed Mosquito pub, right? I think Mosquito sub. Okay, so I have Mosquito sub on my machine. So you said I can Zitify this, and then
so you want to subscribe? Yep. So the host name is I given it before, but it's mqtt.ek.zd, and this lives in the same ZZ network. So your identity has access to that service with this.
What happens if I don't have access? Let's see what happens.
You
must specify a topic. Okay.
-t.
Oh, -t.
Then a topic name.
What's the topic name?
It's whatever you want to subscribe to, but
do you have one already?
Try Ziti.
Ziti.
Ziggy. Right. So it's subscribed. Okay. So in here, I don't want to. Do you want me to? Can you share my screen and do it side by side?
I don't think we can share your screen, but I could try. Oh, hey, look at that. What I'll do is I will. Oh, nope. Yeah, stay right there. There you go. So in the foreground here is mine, and in the background is Eugene's.
So you said the ZD is the topic, right?
ZITI, yep.
So in here, I'm doing the same thing as Clint does, but instead of the subscribing to a topic, I will publish to the topic using Mosquito Pub, and I'm gonna send him some message here.
Nice. And I get the little Linux tux. Is that who that is? Is it
Oh yeah,
supposed to
that's
be?
Linux Tux. Yeah.
In ASCII art's best representation of the Linux penguin, anyway. So I'm a little annoyed because I tried to use that pub before and it didn't work for me. I wonder what I did wrong. Maybe it was the -m stuff. Does
Yeah,
it
so
send a
minus
message?
M, and it has to be basically single argument, so you have to like quote the hell out of it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's pretty cool. All right, so we've seen HTTP work, we've seen curl work. One of the things I think Ken was playing around with the idea was with Netcat. Does Netcat work?
Netcat should work.
But
I haven't tested. I haven't.
we need a server. So Zitify doesn't do hosting, right?
Tried as the hosting yet,
Okay.
but
So we
it
can't
would
Zitify a Netcat to host it. All right.
correct. You would need
Yeah.
something else to host a service.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool, though.
I could try hosting a Netcat UDP service so we can see if that works. We can set that up in the background while we're doing
No,
something
but
else.
you need something to that will host it, right?
Yeah, I could set up the server listening, and then I'd have to distribute you identities unless if I set up the service.
Yeah, but you need some. You're gonna be using like a tunneler, ZH tunnel to host it,
Yep,
to host the service.
that's what I would have to do.
Well, I'm now on a kick because I haven't I specifically did not play around with this to save it all for ZDTV. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to go find. I have identities. Where are they? So I have this identity here called Clint Zdo March 15. Clint Zdo March 15. I'm going to copy that to my ZDTV folder. So now I should be able to do. I don't think that'll work. Clint Zdo Marv 15.json. Now, there's no Zitify doesn't tell me what identities I have, or sorry, what services I have, right?
No.
So I do have an eth0.zd service. So I should be able to curl to this if I did all this right. Zitify, curl. What port is that on? 80.
You probably don't want the service, right?
Oh, I do not want the service. Well, look at that. It already gave me one. Well, it already gave me the answer.
Yeah.
So I can see that it succeeded. Now, I set it to log 0, right? I did do that. Why does it
Yeah,
shoot
you
up?
didn't get the latest. There's some.
I didn't get the latest. Okay. Well, that's cool. So now, one of the, I don't even know if this endpoint actually works, but one of the things I saw in here was SSH as well. Go away. This one. Have you tried?
SSH wouldn't work.
SSH doesn't work, and why is that?
No. Because the standard SSH implementations, when it starts up, it actually closes all of the file descriptors it doesn't know about, and that creates a problem for us because ZDSDK is running in the background, and if SSH executable closes a bunch of file descriptors, we just basically cannot communicate to either controller with the edge router.
So that is a novel feature of SSH, of OpenSSH.
It's not a novel feature. It's just a feature, and there are some comments in their source code saying we're going to close all the file descriptors because they cause issues. But when they do that, it makes it impossible to.
It causes other issues for us.
Them. Yeah. So now that we're on a topic of limitations, so Zitify is pretty new, right? So it doesn't cover all the use cases. For example, it doesn't allow you to do hosting yet, but it will. We hope that it will. Another limitation is that any binary that is compiled from Golang with basically a Golang based executable, it doesn't work because we preload the standard C library, and the Golang binaries don't really link against standard C. so they call system calls directly. I mean, we hope to overcome that limitation in the future, but for now, that's where we are.
What about weird usages like using Zitify with Java? Would that work, or Zitify with Python? Even though I know it's not necessary anymore.
Uh, so as Ken mentioned before, right? He tried HTTP,
That's
which is a
Python.
Python script, and it works,
Good point.
right? So you could do that.
Well, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
On that,
Another thing is Java. I think it should work, but maybe some enterprising listeners can try it out and
Try
let
it
us
out.
know.
So, like, what
And
about Ansible? Ansible and Salt, like those sorts of things. Are those
I don't know how
Go
you would
executables?
embed Zitify into, because a lot of communication in Ansible at least is done over SSH.
SSH. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, again, the things that don't work for SSH probably won't work for Ansible. But
Right.
however, we do have another way to Zitify Ansible, as
Yep.
we've shown previously.
Yep.
And speaking of limitations, another limitation is that if you have a program that does kind of forking, like creates a child
Mm-hmm.
processes, they don't work again yet. We hope to remedy that.
What did you hit some common application that made you notice that?
For example, like Mattermost, right? It's an Electron app. It actually
Ah,
creates a bunch of processes to run in the background. So the Mattermost won't work. I did try the Matterhorn, which is Mattermost CLI client, and that also does the forking. So when you do the fork, so the parent process works fine, but the child
right,
process won't be able to communicate.
right.
So there's that limitation. But again, we hope to overcome those in the coming releases.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's really neat. Fantastic. I mean, is there anything else that we need to talk about when it comes to Zetify? Ken, do you have any questions? I
Yeah,
imagine this
I've got
sparks
one.
something.
So I take it the main value here is that you don't have to modify your app at all, but there's also a compromise here between the full zetification and a very, very lightweight zetification, where a slight change is made. Let's say that it's my app and I am willing to modify it slightly, in the same way that I might bring in any networking library. I just want to set an environment variable of LD preload to libzetify so. Am I done at that point? I can I can just set that environment variable inside my application, and that removes the need for any kind of a wrapper script.
No, unfortunately not. So
Okay.
so your loader, right? If you do it inside your application, meaning once you in the main function, right, of your application, LD preload is already done, right? So it's already went through everything, and the first library that's going to load would be C standard library, and so that we wouldn't be able to kind of hijack those calls, if you will.
Got it. So
So
it does need to be external.
it does need to be external. So, but usually when you create an application that you kind of run and distribute, you always have some kind of script that runs it, right? You don't very rarely, call
Right.
application directly.
However, I think you could simply set LD preload to libzetify like this, right?
Yeah, you can do that.
And then you can do your curl to HTTP to whatever, and then you don't need to call Zetify anymore.
Yeah.
So, Ken, to your point, you could
Yeah.
set up your shell in this way if you wanted all your things to be Zetified just out of the gate.
Right. Or if you had some routine that configures your shell environment for a particular application, you
Oh
could do
yeah,
it that way.
or for
Yep.
example, if you have a like service, right? Like you can put it in a init systemd init script.
Right.
You can
Right.
also Zitify like basically any service that runs on your Linux laptop.
And the three limitations so far is can't host a service, can't fork a process, and needs to be linked against libc.
Yes.
Cool.
And as I said, we are working. I'm working on overcoming those.
Very neat. Very neat. Well, I mean, I don't have anything else for ZDTV this week, but I think that was a pretty awesome one. I know that I
Hey, there aren't any
expect,
feedback from listeners, from
right.
viewers.
I was going to say, I expect to see people playing with it and to try it out. And I suspect we'll see some discourse follow up. We did have discourse user using curl Z earlier. And, that's what I wanted to understand. What we didn't cover is, I assume there is a service which has an intercept v1 config in order for it to work, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So basically, every identity which I have access, every service which I have access to, if it has a intercept v1 configured, I would expect it to be able to work here.
Yep.
Did you did
And
you
we can
try it
share.
with
You
an
can
IP
share.
address?
You can share my screen.
Oh, sure. Hang on one second.
I got UDP working too.
Oh, did you now?
That's awesome.
All right, there's Eugene's
I
screen.
didn't even know that would work. Okay. So yes. So this is the network. This is the view into the Zed's application, if you will. That's what the terminology that Zed is using, but it's a network, right? You can see my clients here. They have client or clean client. They have Ken client that can use it, and this is the service. So for MQTT, you use this service, right? If I go to edit that, you'll see that it has an intercept v1, and this is the host name that we were trying to reach.
Yep. And did you
And
did you happen to try an IP address?
I have not tried the IP address, but I
Well, you
suspect
expect it to work fine, right?
we expect it to work fine. Yes.
Cool. Ken, do you want to show the UDP stuff working?
Yeah, I'll show that real quick.
Let's see it.
So off screen, you don't see the Ziti network that I created and where I created a service that listens on 43210 port UDP with the name echo.zd. So echo.zd 43210, that is the service address. So in the top here, I just have regular NCAT running without Zitify, but it's hosting a service that's being provided by a tunneler that's also off screen. So we've got the back end taken care of with that. And now I'll switch my cursor down to the bottom pane where you can see the full setup for Zitify. And Ziti identities can be a semicolon separated list of identities. So I just added my Echo client that I just created from the other network. So you've got two identities from two different networks, the one that I was using to follow along with the curl commands and httpy. And now I'm running Zitify from my current directory to wrap ncat. We're going to call UDP port echo.zd 43210. And so now whatever I say appears on the server side.
That's super cool. All right. Well, it would be interesting. Let's see what people do. Let's see what they do with Zitify. We want to hear about it. Comment on the video. Hit us up in discourse. Tell us how you're going to use Zitify. Oops. Ken and I fought over that one. All right. Well, I think that's a great ZDTV for the week. Eugene, thanks for taking us on the tour. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me again.
Awesome work. It's really cool to see. I'm interested to see how people play with it. All right. Well, we will see you on next ZDTV. Bye, everybody.